morning.
Hi, everybody.
I'm Tanis.
I am Chris.
Together we are Tanis Fiber Arts, and here we are to talk about yarn, knitting, fibers, colors.
Such a pleasure to be here with you today. You look so gorgeous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I blow-dried my hair.
You always look spectacular, but I'm watching it in the camera and it's just
Radiance.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm wearing a rocket tee today.
Beautiful.
Yeah, in hand spun. So a lot of people, my original pattern has mohair and merino fingering striped. You don't have to use the mohair if you don't want to. You don't have to do the stripes if you don't want to. I love stripes. I did stripes.
Yeah.
But I did not use mohair in this one. But I did use a lace weight. The light pink is a single ply lace weight 100% cashmere, like super gorgeous yarn that I just had one little skein of. And so it was perfect for this project. I also only had one skein of roughly fingering weight hand spun. And together I was able to make a garment.
I'm noticing it's not even close to blue.
No, I know it's branching out, but also I'm noticing I'm wearing long pants. It's hot.
It is, yeah. We're pretending it's fall, but it is still late summer.
It is like 28 degrees Celsius here today.
Kids are swimming after school.
And I just blow-dried my hair not long ago, so I'm like...
Went for a walk last night at 9 and came home a little bit overheated.
Yeah, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
saw a fox. That was great.
He has talked about it multiple times. But it is exciting. It is cool. He thought it was a cat, but it was a fox, and you were delighted.
Yeah, Micah liked the story too.
Chris loves foxes. Should we, you know what? Just because this is what people really like. Did you know that Chris was a world famous tweeter?
Niche famous.
Niche famous.
Back in the day.
Like a decade ago, Chris used to tweet regularly, and you had one of your most famous tweets was about a fox.
It was, yeah, about their size.
About how much you love foxes.
The first time I saw one, I thought they were going to be like maybe dog or small wolf size.
Small wolf.
They're more like a large cat.
Yeah, and isn't there another like follow-up to that little anecdote?
I don't think so.
About Ken Jennings?
I don't know if those two are directly related. Oh, I think, yeah.
Anyways, Ken Jennings.
Ken Jennings, the current Twitter host, borrowed
Not
that.
Twitter host.
Sorry, Jeopardy host.
Is he?
But a friend, yeah, he is now.
Oh.
A friend of mine from the old Twitter days. He borrowed that format.
Okay. Well, either way, you don't have to
Yeah.
you don't have to belabor
He
it.
borrowed the phrasing and as a gift sent me a signed copy of his book for our kids, which is really cute.
Which is cute. But I just think that's cool. Nobody knows that about Chris. That he's that he's funny. And he was on back in the Twitter heyday. Now, I don't know if we don't want to talk about Twitter too much. You're not on Twitter. Chris is not on Twitter now. But he used to be on, used to tweet really funny stuff. And you've always loved foxes. So there you go. Segue. Yeah, so it's not blue, but it's probably the only thing that I'm... No, I have a bunch of stuff that's not blue today.
Oh, you've branched out. I kind of call you out whenever it's not blue.
Well, because it's very easy to find a lot of blue things.
Sure.
The last 3 sweaters I've knit have been blue.
Yeah.
Like I knit 2 this summer, both blue, and the one I'm knitting now is blue. I'm still all blue all the time, but sometimes when push comes to shove, I will wear coral and pink top.
Super fall appropriate.
Yeah.
The colors and the fact that it's a t-shirt, oddly in our extremely warm fall, it's appropriate.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I have something for every occasion. A rocket tee for every occasion. So what have you been working on this week?
What have I been working on? This week has been so much fun dyeing-wise because we went through the odds and ends that were left over in the garage, things that were just put aside while I was dyeing, things that you had, samples that were sent to us from our manufacturers that were, we intended to test and never did. So I got to dye a bunch of stuff with almost no direction or no expectation on the outcome other than they be super interesting, fun, and like exciting one of a kinds, which is, there's no better dye.
I wondered if actually this is the first I'm hearing of this. I didn't know if you loved it or hated it.
You know, there's days when if you're kind of tired and not into it, it's nice to have like the muscle memory of the routine of, you know, your core collection colors.
Yeah.
But for sure, the only way to keep learning about dyeing is experimenting and
Yes.
doing one-of-a-kinds. And if the results aren't great the first time, you add a little more to them. So there's almost no way to get a bad result from one-of-a-kind.
Right. Yeah, because you're not trying to meet something specific. It's like whatever.
Very rare that more layers of interest make something worse.
And that's the thing.
Dyeing.
These are usually like my favorite skeins because they do end up layered because like you do something and don't love it, add something else, and that's what makes them like really truly one of a kinds because you can't really backwards engineer them because sometimes something goes wrong and you're fixing that thing and you can't make that thing go wrong again. And by wrong I just mean I don't know how I describe wrong because some things you could, like if you meant to grab one color and you grabbed another color, that's easily reproducible. But sometimes,
do you know what it is? Is if I'm writing
spills?
If I'm writing out exactly what I do to a batch of yarn, it doesn't matter if I know exactly what I did or not because sometimes that's not feasible to redo in large scale.
Oh, it's not like a practical.
Yeah. And even when you do with 9 or 10 steps to it, it's going to over time change in color, in from base to base, how it looks.
And it's sort of some of them, even if you knew exactly what you did, like, oh, I dyed it green, didn't really like the green, so then I dyed it blue, and then I really liked it. You can't remove that like sort of waiting and drying and time in between, like, so you could and get the same results, right? You can't just mix the green and the blue and get the same thing. Like they really need to be layered to get these sort of specific results.
Right.
And they're super fun. And so basically the reason he's doing this is to clean out my office and the garage, but also, and to have zero waste because we're big on that. To have for the pop-up shop, for the one-of-a-kind section of the shop. So under the shop tab, it's already set up on our website. There's at the bottom, one of the options is one-of-a-kind shop. And this is going to be the place where I put things like this. One of the reasons why we have so much kind of piled up at the moment is because I haven't really had a venue to sell them. Because also a bunch of them, like Chris said, are samples of yarn. Like for example, this skein. Beautiful. Chris dyed this yesterday. Absolutely gorgeous. It looks like chunky. It feels like chunky. It knits like chunky, but it is not our pure wash chunky base. I think it's just that it's super wash rather than non-super wash.
It's hard to say because we would have requested a sample, I don't know, 2-3 years ago.
But we have
and
a bunch.
It sat there undyed.
This is the same batch, but this would be the same. So basically, it's that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the yarn. It's just that we decided to go with our pure wash base, which is not super wash. It's treated in a different way, and not this base. And so then I didn't have, these were maybe even leftover. Anyway, it doesn't really matter where it's from. But the bottom line is I just had sort of 8 or 10 skeins of it hanging around. And I can't sell it as pure wash because it's not pure wash. So then how do I sell it? Like, what do? I put it in the one-of-a-kind shop. So now Chris dyed a bunch of those. And then there's other ones, like I believe this is, this one is this, is that the same? See, this is a thing too. Some of these are going to have question marks beside them. So that's why I've discounted all the prices on these because I can't say 100% for sure if this one has alpaca in it. Whereas our chunky base...
These were not labeled, so I kind of dyed them according to how thick the skeins were. Yeah.
This was just a sample skein.
Anything that did have a label, I kept the information.
Most of it I know what it is. Most of it I can tell. But if I cannot, it will just be like... This will just be listed probably as merino. As rough, as fingering weight... It's merino. I just don't know. I don't think there's any nylon in it. I'm not sure. Actually, this one, see, there's still difficulties even within this system because this isn't a full skein.
Right.
I'm not sure. I think with ones like this, I'm just going to put together sort of like bags, you know? That might not be ready this week. This is going to be an ongoing process because stuff like this comes up a lot too, where today you're dyeing stuff which I don't think is going to make it to tomorrow's update. The update is Friday, October 6th at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
I'll continue to add to this section as things come up, but today you're overdying the colorways from our regular collection of yarns that we dye.
Yeah.
All the colors we usually do that didn't come out quite right.
Which is also super exciting for me because if you take a base like our yak, it starts off with depth to it already. So
Yes.
everything you add on top of it, you've got the canvas you're working on there's no weak spots that shine through. There's just lighter or darker
Yes.
spots. And I've got all these beautiful colorways soaking that I'm going to now speckle or add more interest to. And yeah, it's a surprise to me even.
Yeah.
You know, I can pick two colors that I'm pretty familiar with, use it as a dye bath, put these in, and they come out a tone that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. Now, also surprising that sometimes with the overdyes in particular, they all come out plum.
Yeah.
Which is really funny.
Yeah.
Because you'll have like, you know, obviously if something started off kind of raspberry-ish, generally they end up dark-ish because you can't dye lighter, right? You're adding depth of color, and if you're and a reason why is sometimes, many times, these sort of flaws that we're correcting are darker spots on a skein.
Yeah.
So where sometimes in particular with darker colors, when you're dyeing it, do you want to explain how sometimes like they end up with dark sections? Just like where the dye kind of
the way that we
pools.
dye, if we try not to overcrowd the pots and you try to keep some movement in there while they're dyeing, but if there's like a surge of heat, if it heats up suddenly, or if maybe, I don't know, most of the dye is like very well distributed in the pot.
Yeah.
But you can end up with spots if it doesn't get turned at the right time. Parts of the skein can just have more depth of color, and the way it would knit is like
It ends up with like a splotch.
in a repeating round. You'd get.
I mean, and that
splotch.
happens really infrequently. But when it does happen, I put that skein aside. These are like our standards. Of
Yeah, we
dyeing.
go through every one before it gets sent out.
So I put those aside. Those will continue to come up, and we'll continue to overdye those. But I guess the point is that those end up like a darker, more intense section. So then the skeins end up going darker.
Yep.
And there's certain colorways that are more prone to it.
Instead of trying to cover that up or even it out, what you do is you add more like that, so that you get an overall, you know, dark to light contrast.
I really like this one. This one is. So this is a chunky, and it's got a lot of, it's like a light gray with a little, mostly blue, and a little bit of like golden in there. See, something like this you could probably reproduce.
I know what I did for that one.
This one he could, because it's not like all these sort of layers of mistakes over.
I say that kind of braggy, or I know what I did. I probably should know what I did.
I know what I did. This one I also love. This is a color that this looks like something. I mean, see, a color like this, I wouldn't have you specifically reproduce because we dye a lot of things like this.
That's very much in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And has been since,
you know,
Rocket
like.
or Hummingbird.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So pretty. It's, these are where you... So Chris had to tie off all these ends.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I must have.
Some of
messed
them.
around.
There we go.
Yeah,
Look
we didn't want
at
them
that.
getting tangled, but a lot of the ones.
So we did a color years ago called Reflection. That is really like this. This one.
Don't say you're going to keep it or put it aside.
I have a little pile.
Yeah, I told her that she
I'm
can't
like,
have a little pile.
well, this one's too hard to reproduce, to photograph. I'm going to just keep it. But actually, so then I guess on top of that, a bunch of the yarn that I'm going to put in the one-of-a-kind shop are one-of-a-kinds that I have kept over the years.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't part with them. It would be something like this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you a couple of them, actually.
Which defeats the point to have me work all week to just make that pile bigger. So I'm going to make sure they get out to you guys and don't stay in Tanis's little private stash.
Well,
I can't blame you. I can't blame you.
So this one, for example, this is on our Red Label Cashmere Silk single ply yarn. It's a fingering weight yarn, merino cashmere silk, single ply, absolutely stunning. And this is a color we did for a club a couple years ago. It's called Riot, but it was dyed on the wrong, you had one skein in the wrong base accidentally when you were dyeing. We had done this one on our merino cashmere nylon sock yarn. And then this skein was in the batch and it got dyed and it was so lovely. I just set it aside. But I've already knit something in Riot. I have the remainder of that skein in Purple Label in my leftover stash. I don't need to hold on to this. And we do have the recipe.
Yeah.
So I'm able to part with this one, and I will. So this is going to be in the update.
That's maturity.
And then this is actually something that happens from time to time, though I have gotten so much better about this. This one is also from several years ago. It was a colorway that you dyed for an update, and this one just came out looking different than the others in the batch.
Yeah, maybe bluer.
Yeah, it was a bit bluer. I think the speckles were distributed a little bit differently. Like we had a batch probably of 8 skeins, and this one was the odd man out, and that makes it, I wouldn't, they all have to look like the picture, right? Even though, of course, I think this is the most beautiful skein in the bunch. Yeah. This was the best skein in the batch, but it was not represented. It didn't represent the entire batch. Yeah. So I just kind of squirreled this one away. I'm regretting my choice.
We'll see.
Maybe nobody will buy it.
You want, yeah, right.
And then I will. I mean, you're
sorry.
Fool.
That also sounds overconfident, but I'm looking at it.
It's so nice.
A lot going on.
And I could knit the thing is, you know what? I have just the one skein. I could knit myself a rocket tee, but it's so much like rocket.
Yeah.
But I don't have to knit it for myself. I just don't want to. It's like I don't even need to own the thing that I knit with it. I just need to
see how it comes
out. To be mine. Anyway, I've got a bunch like that. I'm not going to show everything, but I also have these two that were from my personal stash. This is a merino cashmere silk fingering weight yarn, but it's plied. It's not single ply. And I knit myself a sweater already out of it.
So good.
And these were the remaining skeins from the batch that I had squirreled away.
Yeah.
I did knit myself a sweater. Right? These ones were reskeined, and actually I just reskeined. One was and one wasn't, and so I reskeined them both so that they look the same, even though they're identical. But I wanted them to look the same in the photo. But it is so pretty. But I already have a sweater. But I'm like, now do I need another little item?
No, mittens to go with it, a hat.
Or like something.
Right. Right.
I take it back. These are all the ones I'm keeping.
That's
the
beauty.
I'm not keeping them. I'm not. Because the thing is, Chris, you can just go, you can do these.
I can get pretty close.
Well, even if they're not identical, you know, if we're doing one of a kind sort of frequently, there's going to be something from every batch.
Yeah.
I can't keep everyone, but I want to. So, okay. That's just explaining the concept of what it is. You know, I really liked this one also. Do you think you can do this again? Look at that.
I can. So that's also like a direction I like, where it's
so pretty.
On the skein you'll put almost it's like purple to raspberry-ish, and then I like to highlight it with gold.
The gold, yeah. The little gold adds so much to everything.
I
love
like
it with the
it's like an earthy depth, right? It kind of brings the
and I love there's sort of like mucky sections in it that when I say mucky, I mean it only as like the highest compliment.
She means
I really like this one.
Speckle density.
This is a 75% merino, 25% silk. I don't know where you found these. I did not know.
Yeah.
There's only 2 skeins like this, and it's like, oh, should I just keep them?
Luckily,
should I just keep them?
Yarn guys left the labels on them, so we know what those ones are.
Yeah. That is so nice.
That's good. Maybe some of these will be passed on to you guys.
I'm like really.
It's not looking good right now.
Really regretting my decision.
Yeah, she's got a bin she's going through here, just earmarking everything.
So this one I'm not selling because I don't know what the heck this is, but it's
tiny
pretty
too.
And it's small. But Chris found this and dyed this.
How do you even list it? We're like,
no,
not
it's
sure.
Like, that would go in a mystery bag if I did something like that.
Looks like hand
It'd be really pretty for weaving or something. So I'm just gonna keep it. Also, these. What is this?
Yeah, there was 5 or 6
Look
tiny
at
ones.
Why are they so small?
I think those both merino silk DK.
Do you know what I bet happened? I bet I was winding off small skeins to do some sort of kit.
Yeah.
We had mini little skeins in a weaving kit we did years ago, and ultimately I think they were a little bit bigger than this. I ended up going with a larger circumference, so I probably had a bunch of small ones that I had, experimented winding off to see what I was going to go with, and they just kind of. Then we didn't go with this circumference, and I was like, "Well, forget it. What are you gonna?" Well, I could have rewound it, so maybe it wasn't that. But I
thought
really
those were I thought they were misses when I did them. They seemed splotchy and they dried beautiful.
Yeah, they're really pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, stripe it. Actually, it's like this is my whole theme for today. That was yesterday's dye and kind of goes in this direction. Although there are some that are this one.
That's a 1 of 1.
Cool.
There was just one big skein there. I think the label was still on it.
Yeah. So much good stuff. It's really fun both for Chris and for me. Obviously, you can see I have like a lot of enthusiasm for this type of results. But, and then also it kind of gives us, it's like, okay, this one we need to try to do again. This one you need to try to see. Like, you know, it kind of pushes us.
That's what, so we have this for Boxing Day too. There'll be a week for Boxing Day where I just kind of run with it. And that's where we get our ideas for new colors. Things branch off from those experiments. There's a lot to be said for consistency, but all the innovation comes out of just weird attempts.
So then I wanted to show something else that's kind of fun, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to sell these this time.
You had mentioned that.
Just because they're sort of, So we had 3 sock blanks, and here is one that Chris dyed. They all looked quite similar to this in terms of their finished colors, okay? So here's one sock blank. It's already, in case you're not familiar, a sock blank comes as like a knit piece of fabric. You dye it, and then you unravel it to knit with it. And so a lot of people dye gradients on a sock blank because you can get, you know, the whole gradient. They're really, really cool. They're really fun. They look really neat. And we had 3 different ones because this one, for example, it's double knit. And so there's 2 strands of yarn. And so you'd get 2 socks exactly the same if you were knitting socks. And that's really cool. The thing about it is it's super, in my opinion, annoying to work from because you have to unravel it as you could, if it was a single knit.
It's better to unravel it and make 2 cakes of the same.
Well, not necessarily, but with the 2 ply, you're going to get 2 exactly the same. But yeah, you can't knit only one of them. You have to unravel they both need to go at the same.
Right.
And now if people knit socks 2 at a time, you could probably knit directly from the blank. Like if you were knitting with one, we also had one that was single knit. And so that one you could totally just knit from the blank. And also your yarn is crinkled because it's been knit. And I was a little bit surprised actually because so here are the 2 other blanks. This one's fingering weight and this one's lace weight, but these ones were both single blanks. And so they came off still crinkled. Like you soaked, so I skeined them off out of the blank into a skein, and then we soaked it and dried it, and there's still a little bit of texture, like it's still crinkled. And then I wasn't sure, like in here, it really does look like it's going to be like a gradient, even though you didn't intentionally, did you purposefully dye them as gradients? What was your intention?
So these were, because they were blanks, they were laid out, you know, side by side, and I did kind of layer color onto it.
Okay.
Not expressly gradient, but yeah, the pinks and purples did go dark to light. Yeah.
Okay. So then this is the sock yarn single ply one that when I don't mean the single ply yarn, single knit.
Yeah.
That I wound it into a cake just so I could see like how it would knit, and it is cool. It's a cool gradient.
Again, super fun. Yeah, that's.
So I don't know, Chris, you don't love. Okay, but then with this one, before I knit with this one, and this is the one that I like, that I'm the most excited about because I'll just knit socks and I'll have 2 matching socks. Whereas this one would be great for a shawl. The lace weight, also great for a shawl. It's just I don't knit with lace weight that much, so the reason I'm less excited about that one is just because I don't know what I would do with it. But Chris and I are going to sit here and we will both grab one end and we will wind it off into 2 cakes. Because I don't knit 2 socks 2 at a time. It's not how I like to knit. And I can't work just one at a time. And so it just becomes, like I can't do it myself. You could, it would take you an hour.
Well, we'll see.
Really annoying.
But, we'll see. Maybe
but so how do you feel about dyeing them? Because you've dyed one sock blank before. I loved the resulting socks.
We ended up with a colorway called sock blank, right?
Yeah. I loved it. But but you didn't love dyeing them. How did you feel today? A couple years
Well, there was
later?
only 3, right? So I enjoyed it yesterday. If we had a huge box of them and
you had to dye like
doing hundreds, we'll see. But I think so.
Because they kind of curl. The double knit ones kind of curl up.
2 did, 1 didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because one was ribbed. I don't know where that came from. It was knit in a rib instead of stockinette stitch, and so it laid flatter. I have to look. I don't know where. I have no idea.
For speckling and like color distribution, that was a little bit better. But I mean, they're not the end of the world.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
So
fun.
we'll see if people like the sock blanks. Maybe we'll do some experimentation with that. But they're, I mean, they're beautiful, like just like that too, which is kind of fun. But what was the next thing I wanted to tell you about? I have no idea why I'm going in the... Oh, there's a bunch of suri in the shop. Maybe that was the... In the one-of-a-kind shop, we had gotten a bunch of samples of suri alpaca, the mohair alternative that we had been sort of exploring. Because I knit suri alpaca is really, really soft, softer than mohair. And it's also... it's a bit fuzzier than mohair. A lot of people who can't tolerate mohair can't tolerate suri, so we had done some experimenting to see if we wanted to stock suri, probably rather than mohair. And ultimately I decided that I did not, because though there are some things that I like about the suri, I prefer the colors that we get in the mohair, and I prefer the mohair.
Right.
The suri is softer, that's a fact, but it's also fuzzier. I don't know, I just didn't like working with it as much. But having said that, they're beautiful skeins and they're in the shop.
Yep.
But we don't have a lot of them. And then for absolutely no reason, I had it in my mind. I think because I was thinking about the suri, but I really wanted to talk about combining mohair and fingering knit together. So I'm going to need you to hold a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
I'm going to start. You hold this.
Okay.
Okay, because I brought a bunch of sort of examples of things that I wanted to show. Like, maybe I was planning on wearing... I don't know where this came from. Oh, it's because what I'm working on. Okay, let me show that. Got a old pile of sweaters here. This is why I wanted to talk about this, because I am knitting this sweater that I'm working on. I've shown it to you as a swatch. I've shown it to you as a sweater in progress, and now it's even more progressed. It has almost one whole sleeve.
A real return to form for you in terms of color.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back home. And it's just missing another, anyways, and I'm really, really happy with where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay, so this I'm knitting, it's a worsted weight gauge, but I'm holding a strand of DK with a strand of mohair for that fuzz, for that beautiful halo, for its light. Anyways, there's a lot of reasons to do it. I guess we could talk about all the reasons to do that. But the thing I wanted to show is that in this case, the mohair, you can barely see. This is the little bit. I need to join a new skein soon. This is the merino and this is the mohair, and they're basically identical.
Pretty close.
I've chosen the same color. And so the resulting sweater, though the mohair adds a lot of luminosity and texture, it doesn't add color.
No.
Right? It doesn't change the color. But there are so many ways to combine mohair and merino that in really interesting ways to affect the color. And I recommend looking. Tin Can Knits has an amazing blog post about it where they've got a ton of swatches knit. And if you just Google Tin Can Knits mohair swatches, something like that, you'll find it. But I wanted to show a bunch of examples that I've knit. Yeah. Because I think I get emails from people a lot. People think they need to match the color. It's like if you're using... Pick any color. If you're using our brilliant blue color in merino and you want to knit it held together, you need to use the brilliant blue mohair.
Right.
Or if you're knitting in rocket, you got to match it with the rocket. Like in all of these things that I'm showing, not one of them were knit with the same color merino and mohair. Which
is wild, but yeah, it's like you could do a gray with a warmer red tone or a cooler blue, and it's not going to read like the mohair so much as it just accents what you're making.
So let me go through some examples. This one, I wish I had the skeins to show you, but I do not. This one was knit with a
roulette.
Yeah, the mohair is roulette, and so the mohair in the skein is really quite multicolored looking. And any dimension or multicolor that you see in this sweater comes from the mohair. And then the merino was garnet, which is a pretty uniform, it has different shades of burgundy, but a pretty uniform one. And overall, the result is still quite uniform, but it adds a lot of dimension in terms of
which is color. So nice, because you don't have a pooling or stripy effect, but you do have a ton. Looking at it closely here, the mohair's got, yellow, brilliant violet, reds. Yeah. Yeah, it really adds a lot of dynamism to it, to the finished fabric.
This one's pretty close to, this is my Rocket Tea DK. And the two strands, they're both, you know, kind of golden ochre colors, but the mohair is more brown, was a more richer, and so it added a lot of richness to the other gold color that I held.
Yeah.
So these ones are really, they're close, but they're not the same, and so it really adds a depth, which I think is a really pretty way to go. And I generally...
Do you know what's funny is the pairing of these is that's an effect that I shoot for in dyeing all the time, right? Is to, you maybe...
So we keep talking about with
you
the
could
layering,
have like a really nice
right?
turquoise and then layer almost a mahogany over it, and it doesn't take away from anything. It just enhances, like it gives shadowing in some places, and that's exactly what
it's
holding
really similar
mohair does.
And that's
not holding it, you have to hold it.
just holding. If you just walk around holding it. So then this one is similar results. This is I used spruce as the merino. So spruce is a really dark green, but it's not black, it's just a dark green. And then I held it with a black mohair, and it darkens the whole thing to make it, a darker green. Anyways, it makes it darker. It adds, I really love the finished fabric of this.
Super nice.
It's really pretty, right? So that
I definitely would have guessed that was spruce and spruce, but yeah, the black gives it.
Yeah. It's very cool. I like
the same color at nighttime.
That's right. And then these two, so this one's fun. This is a Love Note sweater, and I knit it. The main color is a colorway called Atlas, which is really I do have some Atlas here. It's a very small amount. I keep it right there at all times. Do you want to? Well,
yeah, because it's reading way more turquoise than this.
Well, this is the thing. The Atlas on its own is a really bright turquoise colorway. Which one's more turquoise?
The stain you're
right.
Yeah.
And I held it with this, with speckled iris mohair. And so I find that adding mohair to a bright, and I wrote this in my blog post when I used to blog back in the good old days about this sweater. I talked about this a lot, but the mohair, it softens it. This is a pretty intense color on its own, and when you add the mohair to it, even though this is also like a pretty busy color, you know, there's a lot going on, very colorful, it softens the overall look and makes it, to me, look a lot more wearable for my personal style. And then the colors blend. It makes a new color that is somewhere in between, but neither one nor the other. And I just love how that worked to take two, you know, take a really vivid color and kind of tone it down a little bit. Very watercolory, very beautiful. And then the last one I was going to show, this is my City Limits sweater.
That's like an all-timer for me.
Yeah.
I really love the gradient, the colors in it, and the texture. And the closer you get, the more it has going on. Yes,
because the speckles, I mean, it's very hard to see it from a distance because that's kind of by design. They're really subtle. But there is hot pink, lime green, neon yellow. Like there is a lot of really exciting speckles within that. But so this was a fade. It's the Orion fade. It's currently available in the shop. And I held it with a gray. I didn't bring it.
No.
A colorway. Anyways, with a light gray mohair. And what the mohair does is it tones it down. It really makes the fade really subtle. Like,
you know what's
right?
funny though? If you did it with a black, you would get a really cool result too. It would
Totally.
still read as this and
Totally.
just darken it instead.
So you could do it with, I would pick a color that's present within it. I wouldn't do it with red.
Right.
But you could do it with like a gold. You could have done it, I could have done it, and it would change the overall look of it. And it would be really cool.
Yeah.
So it makes, I find it really helps to make a gradual fade. And it really pulls everything, like all the colors together. Anyways, I think that's a really fun way to do it. So I just wanted to show, this is just sort of as an example. I brought this skein, I just picked off of the shelf a skein of Splurge in merino and pure wash fingering. And it's got a lot of different colors in there. There's speckles of purple. There's obviously some chartreuse, some bright teal.
Gold undertones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, do you want to just hold up? I just picked off the shelf a whole bunch of mohair.
Want to see them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like any of these options. would be gorgeous. So let's do one.
I would have gone with the one I handed Tannis, which is the most conservative of the two options for
sure.
So
this would just tone down. It would make it overall lighter.
Yeah.
And it would tone down some of the chartreusey bits, amp up the teal. This, I feel like some of these are self-explanatory. This colorway is called Deep Space, and it's...
Just give it a darker halo.
Yeah, I'll give it a darker halo. And again, it really mutes any of the sort of color variation.
Tell me what this does. This is the one she's using in her sweater.
It makes it more blue. Yeah. Some of these are self-explanatory. It would make it more blue. It would totally change the color. You would see more of the silk. The center of the mohair is a silk strand, and you would see more of that in contrast to the yarn, because this one is so solid and it would really stand out. But I think that.
But like bears really repeating takes nothing away from the other skein, right? It just adds just an enhancement.
This one's speckled iris. This one goes with everything. I think because it's got so many colors and they're all watercolory. And this is the same color that I used in my Love Note sweater with the Atlas colorway. So it would probably be not unsimilar to those types of results, just more green instead of aqua.
This is my number 2 pick. I would go for that too.
That one's just pulling out the chartreuse. Now this would shine. This would really show in the darker parts.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. I just think it's a really valid option. But I do tend to prefer to go darker with the mohair because I like the added depth that it gives rather than going lighter.
Yeah.
In general, I wouldn't say, there's certainly no hard and fast rules, but that's generally I tend to prefer.
You can make a good case for lighter if your the other skein, the non-mohair, has a lot going on and you want that to show.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Right? That, like a light gray or something in a beigey would just bring out the halo.
Yeah.
Without
you would get
covering
the fuzz without,
the way a darker would.
And the, but like I said, check out the Tin Can Knits blog post because it has a lot of swatches and images and it just really shows how...
Super good guideline, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really helpful. So in terms of what I'm knitting, what we've got available, we've covered everything. There's one last thing I wanted to show, and it's my son's weaving.
Oh yeah.
He remember I've been talking about how I've been weaving with the kids, and this is our 10-year-old wove this all by himself. He's already worn it to school, even though it's 28 degrees. He did not. So I should have sort of. I could have gone over it with the steam iron to give it a bit more. But because it was shoved into his backpack, obviously at the end of the day, because it's so hot. But how gorgeous is that? He did such a good job. I dare say. Weaving is one of his special talents because I'm calling them margins. I don't know if I just made that up. I don't know where I read that. His edges are really straight. Like they're really good. When I weave, it's like this. Like I'm not very good at that, but he really nailed it. And we did. There's some colored jumps, like as you can sort of see. Like here, it went. We tried to make the shifts in color as gradual as we could because sometimes you run out of yarn on your, again, I call it the bobbin. I don't know what it's called, but the thing that you wind the yarn onto, and then that's what goes in and out, and you can't wind enough yarn for the entire scarf on one thing. So you just wind a bunch, you do it, and then you have to wind more. But with a color changing yarn like this Noro yarn, that messes up the color changes because you cut it and then you're weaving. There's a way to do it because you could just like wind it and then wind it again the other way. There's ways to do it. We were not interested in overcomplicating things, so we just kind of went like this. But we did. We really wanted to get this aqua in. Who do you think really pushed for that?
Oh, we did. Yeah. The whole family wanted that aqua. We really wanted
to make sure we got to the aqua. So we did cut out. There was a lot of this. Had we not cut this out, some of this darker section, this whole section would have just been the dark green. So we got rid of some of that dark green so that we could get into more flow of more fun colors. Anyway,
our younger son, our younger son's weaving one now, and it's not. There's a couple years age difference. It's not coming as naturally to him, and I think I hadn't seen how nice this one. He's holding this one up as the gold standard, so it's kind of tough for your first one.
It is, but I showed him my.
The positive takeaway is they're all weaving. That's great.
Yeah, it's totally, once you get it started, this is the problem though. They're not able to warp it themselves. I can barely warp it. I'm exaggerating, but like I made a mistake this time.
Humble brag over here.
I made a mistake warping it, and he is like really so our youngest son, he was having some moments of frustration, and then in an effort to sort of convince him, you know, nobody's good right off the bat, it takes practice, I showed him one that I had woven with some imperfections that he loved. He didn't know that there were imperfections in it. And so I pointed them out to him, and he was like, no wonder I'm such a bad weaver. You're the one who's teaching me. He goes, look who's I was like, that was not the takeaway. He was like, this is your best work. I was like, well, I'm pretty proud of it. I think it's pretty nice. And my point was like, nobody notices the imperfections. He's kind of a perfectionist.
He thinks he is. I feel like when he has his finished product,
I think he's gonna love it.
Live with the inconsistencies.
Yes, I think he's gonna love it, and we'll make another one.
I love inconsistencies in crafted projects.
Well, it's so funny. I mean, I am the furthest thing from a perfectionist in. Like, I can spot a crossed cable, like a miscrossed cable, 1 row after I've done it, and I'm like, I can live with it.
Sure.
It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Like, some people undo like entire sweaters to fix a crossed cable. And I'm like, I'm unlikely to unpick 20 stitches to fix something.
Yeah.
I will. 20 stitches I would do, but like when it comes to even a couple of rows, it just doesn't bother me.
No, you got to embrace it.
But at any rate, it bothers him at the moment, or he thinks he does. I think he thinks it bothers him, but hopefully he's going to, I think he's just going to be so happy with the finished result. And I think he's going to be able to finish it. That's the cool thing about weaving is that it's fast.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like a month-long project. It's like, or months, because he's also, he's working on an embroidery, which he's doing really well with, but he started it in the summer, and it's a months-long project. Like,
right. We need to get them on more of a tennis schedule than a Chris schedule. I do let things linger, but there's people in line for that to weave next. So
yeah, we only have one.
We had to get them on and off.
You gotta just do what I do.
Yeah.
Wake up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, start crafting. Don't stop.
He did, minus
don't
the coffee,
eat,
but
don't sleep.
He was in a tailspin before we were out of bed.
Weren't even
it's
up,
6:45, and he's about to whip it through the window. We persist.
It's gonna be worth it.
It's a life skill. He'll get it off, and he'll have a finished product, and he'll love it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Or he's gonna gift it to you.
Best case scenario.
Yeah, like
we can both wear it.
Well, yeah, because they love. They're proud to wear the things they make themselves, but I mean, much prouder to see somebody else wearing the thing they made. Our eldest last year knit a hat for himself, and then he knit another hat for his younger sister, for our daughter, and you can just see him anytime she picks to wear it. You know, he's like quite chuffed. It really is.
Also a life
cool.
skill. Special people appreciate handmade gifts.
True.
Yeah.
True. So there you go. That's it for this week. So much knitting. So much. This week was really a week of fun yarn experimentation.
Still is, yeah.
Yes,
and we're
it's not done.
Yeah. We're having a blast, and we're going to pass it on to you regardless of how nice they are. No, wait. That doesn't sound right.
No.
Even the super nice ones. Even the top skeins are coming to you guys.
Unless, if it's cut and I need to tie it.
If I catch you down there cutting you're in trouble.
Anyways, so hope you love it. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.